Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Quick look again at Solana. Nice, sweet little recovery here up to its local resistance here. Now, again, it did break through its previous resistance range when we talked about this yesterday. This area of like 218 to 222 was working as a potential resistance. Closing above that's a good sign if we can get that to happen on the daily time frame. Now you got to recognize CPI data came out, price action shot much further than it should have, and this resistance level never really got a chance to hold. So now that we're back up above that, there's potential that could be the new support. So we just kind of got to be mindful of that. And again, you kind of always got to take this in stride too, because when these levels kind of shift from bearish to bullish, and everything kind of just changes on a dime, it can be difficult to kind of calibrate, right? Right now it's like, okay, cool, we've broken long, and now then the market makers push the price action lower. It's a really nonsensical thing the way that everything works out, because as soon as you shift bearish, the price action moves bullish, right? So again, that's kind of how the market works. That's how they do their thing. At this point, though, the important thing to recognize is that Bitcoin is looking very strong for the moment. It broke through its key level resistances. It has a nice amount of support and confluence at 98.5 to roughly 99.5. Okay, so that little support range there. I'm confident, or feel fairly confident in saying that this fair value gap should get filled. We might see a retest that upper 90s, and if so, that might be a good consideration for a long. For the moment, that's what we're looking like. Okay, now how does that work into consideration for Solana? It works very similar in a lot of ways, just slightly different levels. So let's go ahead and take a look at that and kind of recognize kind of where we're at here. So is it time to take a long with Solana? The short answer is yes, but there's going to be a few little caveats there, okay? And when we take a look at liquidation, we can see there's a tremendous amount of liquidation left to the upside. So a lot of shorts are still holding strong from 245, even though they're still in the red, or they're not quite as in the green as they were before, right? And that happens a lot, folks. People will just get really hell-bent on a specific direction. They think the top is in, and they just short like crazy. Same thing too for longs, it works both ways. But the whole point of me mentioning this is all the local shorts here, 220 to 222, that area of liquidation I mentioned was important. We blasted straight through that and haven't even bothered to look back. It's common for those areas to be retested, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a retest of like the low 220s for Solana if Bitcoin pulls back to its 98K range. And if that does happen, that should be, at this moment, a decent consideration for a long because of how much liquidation is left to the upside. Again, super large amounts of liquidation at 250 to 245. Having said that, though, you don't take a long just because there's liquidation to the upside. That's not how you do it. But there's a lot of confirming factors on the chart so far that shows that we've broken our descending trend line and that we're establishing higher highs and higher lows. That's usually a good trend reversal indicator, and that lets us know too, with the delta here shifting, people are no longer shorting Solana, or sorry, they're not like they're no longer doing it. There's more liquidation on the upside, of course, but there's more people taking longs than shorts, and that is usually a good sign. You want to get in when that happens. Okay, again, hindsight's 2020, but had you got in right here, so to speak, the price continued lower, you could have found more profit. Okay, again, generally speaking, we see that shift in momentum, that shift in dynamic, and we're more than likely going to find further upside on a coin like this. Okay, also to note, and I'll show you on the charts, 200 held like a champ. That $200 support range. Even though it wasn't officially tested, that was a previous high range for Solana for a while, and it works as a new low, so it's really nice to see that happen. It was open interest. We kind of zoom out here. We can see there's a lot of interest in the 235 to 240 range, so previous longs are still underwater, but hoping for the best. Okay, so let's take a look at the daily time frame, work our way down. And when we look at the daily, we want to recognize yesterday that we talked about losing the 50-day SMA being a bad sign. Again, you can close below it on occasion and it can recover, but for the most part, we get 2 or 3 days of closure below, like just say this 213 to 215 range, then there's a distinct probability the price will continue lower. Okay, so the whole point of me mentioning that is the simple fact that that's kind of working as a nice little range, a nice little trend setter, letting us know that we're still in decent shape. While we're not above the 20-day SMA and we have this massive amount of control at 237 to 245, this is kind of like the upper resistance range. We can see for the moment we've broken through our initial threshold and that we're doing fairly well here. Now I'll post an updated playout chart with new fib levels here, of course, soon, but we're coming up to that 0.618 fib level, so it would make sense we get a slight correction from Solana to the 220 to 225 range to likely pivot off of this that support range bounce. Okay, so again, I'll clean up the charts here shortly, but I just want to spare your time and kind of get to the real important stuff first. So daily time frame, to recognize this here, we're getting closer to 50 in the RSI, or just we're barely above it for the moment. So we close in this, this 225 range. We're probably going to be able to see the price continue higher as we're breaking through that tentative resistance. We can also see here money flow index is still maintaining itself. So there's been a lot of money flowing into Solana even on its way down, and that's a good sign. So volume is high and it's maintaining itself. This is a pretty good sign overall. We're over the 20-day SMA, but not the 50. The 50 is again here at this 230 mark. So that's kind of reinforcing the fact that we have a lot of resistance in that 230 range to 235. So again, hypothetically, you take a long, you may want to consider securing profits, maybe keep it tight, or wait for a better entry to the downside here, maybe get this fair value gap filled at like 219, 220, and take a long at that point. Either way you look at it, there's plenty of FOMO that can occur during situations like this. So you do what works best for you. I'm waiting for a better entry on Bitcoin as the price pulls back, hopefully pulls back a little bit further, so we can get in between 98 and 100,000 for a long. Now, the concept there is just to ensure that we take kind of a low risk long at that point. Even though the price action for Bitcoin could still pull back, it's broken through a lot of barriers and there's more likelihood for further upside. I'm saying that because if Solana continues to follow suit with Bitcoin, which it has, it's done fairly similar in a lot of ways, very similar patterns here. I would say Solana is more likely to pivot and bounce here soon off the 220 to 225 range. Okay, that just seems like a likelihood. I'm hoping that happens. If it doesn't, no worries. We'll catch the next opportunity. It's not the end of the world, right? But once more, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards here, and it should look something a little bit something like this here. Once again, you don't always get what you're looking for, but that's in a perfect world what we're hoping for here. We're over 50 in the RSI. Excellent news. So if the price pulls back, RSI should pivot off 50, reinforcing that support at 225 to 220. Money flow index increasing, MACDs converging. A lot of reasons here as to why you shouldn't necessarily consider a short, even though we're approaching a resistance range with a lot of confluence here at this 230, 236. Once again, initial test, potential fail, right? But secondary test should break through. So that's the whole concept. That's why, retracement occurs. And for the most part, right now the bulls are becoming a little more on the exhaustive side. We take a look here at the Ichimoku cloud. We can see we have been moving pretty consistent here. We're also at a 9 here, just like Bitcoin, kind of overextended. And a 9 just kind of signifies that we've been moving in the same direction for 9 hours straight without correction or consolidation. And most trends will end at that 9 to 10 hour mark, which just essentially means that we should see the price go sideways or pull back and then potentially leg up again. It could even pull back and never look back too. There's that as well. You got to recognize this is not like the perfect situation, but for the most part, the descending trend line has been broken. We're back up over the cloud, conversion lines of the baseline, lagging spans free and clear. There's many more opportunities here or reasons why a long makes more sense than a short. And I'm sure some folks are probably rolling their eyes too, being like, well, yesterday you said not to take a long and look at us now. Yes, of course, that's best practice though. You're not supposed to take a long into just an overextended dip. It doesn't make a ton of sense because the price action continues much lower, much faster in most cases when that happens. Now that we've confirmed that Bitcoin's back over its resistance, kind of essentially establishing a new support there, we should be in pretty good shape to take some longs here with altcoins today. Okay, that's kind of the concept. So I'm looking for, hopefully an entry in the 225 range for Solana. It's really not that far away, but with us being at a 9 right now, overextended into this push, coming into a resistance, consolidation at the very least would make sense. So in a perfect world, the price just goes sideways here in a channel and we buy that bullish rectangle before it breaks out. Okay, again, hindsight's 2020. It's easy to say now, but at this point, that's roughly what we're looking at. Okay, anyways, I hope that makes sense. I described that correctly. Do me a favor, don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. Feel free to join us over at Bitunix. Awesome $12,000 deposit bonus this month. And then, of course, make sure you jump on over to our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. I post our playout charts there, so you're kind of stay on top of that if you want. All right, folks, hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.